software. So I'm going to start with making a very generic cartoon smiley face. All right. So say I want to animate this smiley face. I make a circle. I'm going to go ahead and make it yellow. So I'm going to make myself a new folder here so I can start this whole project in here. And this will be talking smiley. Cool. Sorry, everybody. Everybody's still getting in. That was my bad. Didn't mean to break the internet. All right, so let's put this in here. So I created a new layer so I can start, and this is going to be my face. So this is just going to be a yellow face. So I can go over here to the paint bucket, select the paint bucket, and make the face. I will Command D to deselect, so I'm no longer selecting that actual surface. And then let's go ahead and add another layer, and I'm going to make the smile. Now the smile, I'm going to want it to be able to talk. So I want to take a circle and then I'm going to hit Alt and I'm going to get rid of some of the circle. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the widest position, and by holding Alt, I can deselect, right? And so I just kind of creatively made this smile. And this is going to be the smile when it's open. So to do that, so I'm just going to make this black. So I'm going to select my color, come in here, grab black. Sorry, Ben. Everybody's making it back in. Okay, so I'm going to paint this black. So now we have a black smiley face on a yellow head. I'm going to give it some eyes. So let's say the eyes are going to be, I make a new layer. So I have the eyes. Let's go ahead and just label this, double click. I'm going to say smile, mouth. No, let's say smile. And then come in here and this will be eyeball one, eye one. And so I'm going to make this white, but I want this to have a little bit of a outline to it, right? Because that's a little awkward. It's just an eyeball. I hit V to get the selection tool. V, the letter V is a shortcut to that. If I hold Alt while pick this light bulb, I can multiply it, right? So this is kind of a thing you can try on and off, but you can, by holding Alt or Option on Max, you can grab an object and when you pull it, it creates a second layer. It just duplicates that layer. This works in a lot of softwares, but something interesting to note. I'm going to go ahead. I like the eye placement. Let's see. I can space them around a little bit. And that looks pretty good. I will actually go ahead and keep them as separate layers and not make them one unified layer. And I'll explain why in a second. I do want to go ahead and give it a stroke to make it have a little bit of an outline. So we have a little bit of an eyeball range. Blending options. Maybe that's a little bit big for the stroke. Maybe I can make it a little smaller. 6. Let's go 4. And then I'll double click this one to get that same menu back. Click on stroke, make that 4 specifically. And now those look a little more like eyeballs. So I also want to make the face have a stroke on it, which is blending options, because that will give it a little more realistic of a feeling as well. First of all, I'm also going to give it a drop shadow so that it kind of sticks up off the space a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller size so that it looks more like the actual diagonal piece. So it looks like an actual shadow coming at that angle. The opacity is pretty good. We can see it's going to give us a little bit of detail. I'm going to also add a stroke so it kind of has a little bit of the same detail above. And then I'm going to come in here and make this a little bit thicker so it just kind of the more prominent one. I can tell my smile is weird. So if I hit V, which is our selection tool, I can click on this layer and it'll automatically guide me over to that layer and I can move it around. So maybe instead I'll make it a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to try to do is get it as close to what I want. If I hold shift, I can warp it in different ways. I think that's actually probably a good shape. I'll move that over. It will kind of align it with the piece. I don't know if we need a mouth. I think we're, a nose. I think we're fine without a nose. I do want to do eyeballs though, and these are just going to be little circles. I do want to make this a different layer, so I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to put it above the eyeball. So I'll show you where I was below the eyeball. So if I'm below the eyeball when I try to do it, I want to make this black. Come over here, get my selection tool. So if I select it, it does actually do it, but it does it behind the eyeball. So if I bring it forward, it's got to go to the front, looking at how our layers are stacked, right? Control D separates that out. Whoop, wrong one. I want to move this eyeball, so I'm going to just kind of move it down to where I think a good starting position is. All right, and then I think also I'm going to want to do that, so I can just duplicate by right-clicking, and I'll just move the other eyeball over. I'm not gonna lie, to give them a little bit of a more human quality, I think having a little bit of a what's called an eyelight, which is a film term. I'm gonna add a little bit of an eyelight here. So I'm gonna grab my brush, just a regular brush tool. I'm gonna make it white. And I'm just gonna kind of create that little half moon that you see when light is reflecting off people's eyes. That just kind of gives it a little depth. I am also going to change my opacity here. So this opacity doesn't need to be 100. I can drop it down to 50 or so that when I do this, oh, whoa. Now I did actually just draw that on, let me see actually what layer. I drew that on that layer. So instead of making a new layer for that, I just drew it right on top of the eyeball, okay? And then this one, I'm gonna come over and find this eyeball and I'm gonna draw that on as well. And that's not the exact same placement, so I can kind of use my, I'll hit V to get my selection tool, and then I can kind of futz where it goes. But it looks pretty nice, right? These are separate layers themselves because I'm going to move those layers around and have them do stuff, right? I'm going to have the eyes move around. I'm going to have the mouth open and close. I do need pupils though. So, or not pupils, I need eyelids. So for this, I'm just going to duplicate this layer and I'm going to bring it up to the top. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other eye. And this is just how you look at the world. I've never made a smiley face before. I am legit making this up as I go, because just judging what a smiley face looks like. And smiley face seemed like the easiest thing to animate in my mind. Great, so now I have this here. So I'm gonna add, I have the stroke on. I'm gonna do a color overlay. Color overlay, so that's black because that's just what it naturally is. If I select that color and it gives me the eyedropper tool. So if I select the yellow that I want, now I have a closed eye, right? And then I can do the same thing to the other one. Dun, 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 color overlay. Oops, select color overlay, not gradient. Cool. So now this is eyelid 2. That's creepy. Eyelid 2. Eyelid 1. Ooh, let me turn this off so I can see. This is pupil 1, that's correct. This is pupil 2, that's good. This is eye 2. These names will be helpful later. Eye 1, that's great. And then smile, and that's fine. And then face. Okay, great. So here's what I'm gonna do. Now I'm gonna start saving these as PNG layers that I can actually use. So each one is gonna become its own layer. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. Oh, I'll just start. Sorry, I turned all of them off. I just want to turn one of them on. Let me make this a little bigger so we can see more stuff. Okay, so I just turned one on. I'm trusting where it was lined up in my image. Okay, so I'm going to do File at the top, Save As on my desktop. I'm going to go to no, this isn't CTW. This is, I have a lot of things. I need to clean this up real bad. I'm sorry. I'm like one of those people. Let's just make this a new thing. It's going to be called Smiley. Beautiful. The naming, that's the art. Okay, great. So this is going to be a JPEG and I am doing eyelid 2. Aha. So eyelid 2. And I want it to be a PNG, not a JPEG, because I want to save the negative space there. I don't need the space. I can keep it like that. Great. Going into that folder, save that. Perfect. Now I want to do eyelid 1. Save as PNG. Oops, sorry. Nope, I was in the right spot. This is what I want to change. PNG. Wait, why is it? Oh, it's going back to the original thing I was in. I want it to be, no, Smiley. Sorry, it's saving where my original file is, which is in the original thing that I was working on. So I'm gonna have to do that every time. This is pupil 1, so File, Save As, PNG. Oh, I hit Pixar. I don't know what a Pixar is, but I want to know now. 1. Nobody's paying me for spelling. Make sure it goes into the right folder. And only the layers that you have turned on will save when you're saving, right? I know it sounds redundant, but it's kind of important to note that basically you're creating a person in different pieces or whatever. So you'd save like anywhere you want to hinge, you'd save the arm as one piece and you save the elbow to the shoulder as another, and then you can now move this, or just make the arm one piece and now it just moves. Or if you just have a cutout of a person, you can just move that person around. But I'm going to show how we do that. I'm going to keep, Few steps, but this is a good way to get here. So this is eye number 2. This is kind of my favorite. I'm enjoying this. I'm sorry this takes so tedious to like watch me save every single thing as an asset. I gotta fix that. I saved it into the wrong folder. Look at me go. Terrible. I want in Smiley. This is I2. I need to resave. Oh no, wait, this is I1. In Smiley, PNG, great. This is easy to mess up just because it's so easy to forget what you're doing. Do this one, this is I2. In Smiley. File, save as, PNG. This is going in here, and this is Smile, PNG. If you have questions as I'm going, feel free to throw them out there. Notice I keep the drop shadow on the head, but no drop shadow for anything else. I don't want anything else to appear like it's separate from the body. It should appear like it's a part of it. So that helps with that. So this is the head. PNG, great, save. Now, all these things are saved. I'm gonna go ahead and save this, and I'm going to stop the share, and I'm gonna close Photoshop because running both softwares at once is terrible. And then I'm going to open, since we are doing something different, I am gonna do a new project. Save that, because I don't wanna clutter what I've got going in that folder. I wanna keep things separate. So give me a second, let me share this. All right, so I'm going to do, actually, I think I can use, do we have projections demo? Yeah, okay, great. This is the buildings and the fire and stuff. So I'm gonna make a new folder because I can keep all of my, this entire, all my class stuff together in one folder. Is just kind of the way I sort my stuff. So this will be Smiley, okay? So then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to have in there a folder for base files, because these are going to be all the assets that I just made, along with whatever audio track I'm going to animate. So let me find these images and drop them in here. Oh, wait. So I'm just highlighting all of them and then drag and drop. Yo, don't know how it works with other software, but there's everything. Okay, so now if I do a new composition, I'm going to do it. I'm going to click Smiley and I'm going to click a new composition and I'm going to call it. Okay, so this is 24 minutes long. I don't need that. I need only, let's do 3 minutes just to give it. So this is my new composition. I will make this 1920 by 1080. So let's do, which is TVs. Full, yep, background, great. Okay, so this is my new composition. So now I can just take all these parts and I can throw them in here and it'll give me a thing. And it's just the way it's layered them. So the first thing I want to do is I want to come in, and you can color code these. So if you want to make sure that, you know, the way I normally work is if I'm doing something for a class, I'll have, every time my head is in a lecture box talking, that is purple. Every time that I have some kind of background like PowerPoint or something I'm walking through, those are always, it depends on which one I'm working in. So sometimes they're sand colored, sometimes they're yellow. If I have a sound effect, that's always dark green. And it's just kind of setting yourself up for things so you can quickly identify. I don't care what you do. I'm gonna make the smile blue just because I want it blue. So let's do, we wanna do these in order. So the head can go to the back, that starts letting us see more. The eyelid can go up here, the eyelid can go up here. I'm gonna use the eyeball to turn these off so I don't have to look at them right now because I'm not necessarily gonna want them all the time, okay? So coming in here, I have the left pupil. I'm going to make that above the right pupil. The smile is going to go a little lower. The eyes, I think I'm going to link the eyes together. So this little squiggly Q line here means that you drag it to another object, and whenever you move that object, it'll move both. So if I click on I1 and I move it to the left, it'll move I2 in sync with it. I think that's a good idea for this because I want to keep the eyes at equidistant away. Yeah, they might move a little bit left or right depending on what's going on, or they might squinch down or whatever to show anger or happiness or whatever we're doing. But I'm going to keep them kind of linked. I can still move them separately, But if I move the first one, it will move both. So usually move the first one and then move the separate one. You also don't have to do it. If you don't like it, you can just click none and it'll unlink it from other things. If you watch any of the videos where I have like the frame flying with the pipe behind it, the pipe is linked to it so that the pipe always moves at the exact, if I move it, zoom it in, zoom it out, it scales that too, okay? Smiles there, that's good, heads there, that's great. Because everything in here is black, I'm gonna go ahead and just add a layer. I'm gonna click on layer. Sorry, let me click on the actual composition and then layer and then new. And then I'm gonna do solid and it'll let me pick whatever color solid I want. I just want something that's different from what's on the screen. So let's just do some kind of deep blue and it will make it the size of your space. You can make it whatever size you want. I'm gonna just make it the size of my space and I'm gonna make it the back layer so I can see now what the drop shadow is doing. I can see what everything's kind of doing in the space, okay? Oh my, that drop shadow is terrible. I hate it. So what I can do, I could jump over to Photoshop, which I just closed. Give me a second to open again. So if I hate that drop shadow because it's too close, I can come over here to Photoshop and I can click on here and take that drop shadow and double click it and I can drop it down to like 34%. It's not that impactful here, but let's see what it looks like on the other. So I'll come back, I'll do save as a PNG, make sure I go into the right folder and I'm gonna click on head because I want it to be the exact same thing. Now my computer has this annoying thing. Do you want to replace? Yes, you do. So replace it, agree. Now my computer has this annoying thing where it replaces things as a copy and it has the word copy. So I actually have to go in, I'll actually share this with you so you can see this process in case yours does the same. So if I'm in here right now, it's got head copy and head, I will delete head and then I will click on this one and I will delete the word copy and the space. So making it the exact same name that it was a second ago, okay? What happens then if I click here, you can see once I click into the software, or I already did it actually, it just softens that, it automatically updates, remember? Because we're referencing, we're no longer working in a way that is like I'm affecting this file and it saves forever. If I ever change anything in that and I keep the file name the same, it'll update and change that in the new software, in the software I'm working on, and everywhere across the map, anywhere that this file is being used. Cool. So now let's do, let me find a song. Okay, so I can just drag and drop it. I'm going to put it into the base file so that we have it there. I'm going to bump it up to here, and then I want to go ahead and see the audio. So I always open the audio and I open the waveform so I can see exactly what's going on. If I zoom in by clicking on this mountain, I can get way more detail about how this is going to actually go. I'm going to drop the audio level down a little bit here just to like, so it doesn't blow out whatever it's going to be. So let's hear it real quick. It's got to do a little loading, so it'll do it as it goes. Okay, cool. That's going to be so easy to do. So let's just go ahead. Let's just start with this at the beginning. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of eye movement here first. So I'm going to grab these two eyes and I'm just going to have, to make my life a little easier, I'm going to link the left pupil to the right pupil so that I can just affect one and then the other will go with it. So on these opening beats, I'm going to have the eyes go left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay. So let's see. I want to find that. I'm going to scooch this over here so I can see this a little better. Okay, zoom in so I get it starting at the right spot. So I'm just want to picking the key things that are important to me. So for now, it's going to be, so there's 5. So basically I can line up right above it, right before it's about to move. And then if I come here to the pupil and I hit the position button, I'm locking it in a position where it is. So every time it comes to that keyframe, it will be in that spot, right? Now I can jump, I'm gonna just move, I'm gonna hold command and use the arrows to go 2 frames so that it can be a very fast movement, right? So if we're seeing 29 frames every second, 2 frames is not much, but we will get to see a little bit of that movement, okay? So in that, I'm gonna move the eyes, I'm gonna just click, that's too much. So I'm just gonna use, yep, right there. So just using arrow keys to get them to move. That's nice. And then coming down to the music, I'm gonna go ahead and just jump. I know the next one's gonna be right in the same spot, so I want it to be the same on each one. So what I'm gonna do is now I wanna hit this dot again because that tells me from this point to this point, it's not gonna move. If I just went to this point and moved it, it would start moving right here. So it would start moving as it goes. Does that make sense? Sure, we'll see in a second. So now that I'm here, I move 2 frames. I'm gonna go ahead and just click this one over using just arrows, okay, to the other side. Then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna find the next point in my music, and I'm gonna lock this one in at that position again. And I'm gonna move 2 frames, so it's good. And then I'm gonna go back. I can also copy paste frames. So like if I want, I could just take this one right here where it was in the last position, and I can hit Command C and Command V and it'll paste it, and it's the same thing. Do be careful adding cues in between because it can make them do weird things, and I'll show you that in a second. But basically now, same thing, I'm gonna move them the other way. Whoops, too far. Just wanna get it where I want it to go. Yeah, it looks nice. Then this is the last one, so let's go ahead and have this one bring it to center. Okay, so here, and then I'm gonna move 2 frames and I'm gonna bring them over to center so they look at us. Boy, that's creepy, a little unsettling, but back to center, here we go. Okay, so that's just step 1, right? So now we just have a little bit of movement. At the same time, maybe we want the eyelids to open and close, right? So that we get a little bit of movement there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna create a mask, all right? So this, basically, I'm gonna just create a little bit of a boxed edge. So I click on the layer I want it to be in. So it's gonna be an eyelid 1, which is this one. I click and I just kind of assign, and you can kind of see what it's doing is it shows us where the mask is. It allows us to see the eyeball. It allows us to see the yellow layer, okay? So basically what's happening here is this is adding it in. If I turn the mask to subtract, it'll show me everything around the eyeball. Because I only have the eyeball in it, I only want it to add, I want it to go ahead and be here, okay? So then I'm gonna go ahead and copy this mask to eyelid 2, or actually let's hold off on that because I wanna show you, I'm gonna animate it first. So I wanna be able to see the eyeballs move, but I'm gonna start with the with the eyes closed at the beginning, okay? So at the beginning, it'll be closed. So I can come over here to where like I'll start and I can come into the mask and open it up. The mask path is its movement, okay? So what I wanna do is I'm gonna turn the hourglass on here so that, or the stopwatch, so that means it's now gonna start tracking its movement, okay? So you can see the 4 dots. If I hold, I'm gonna hit V so I can get my selection tool. Letter V does it again, selection tool. So I can either, if all the corners are selected because I have the mask selected, see if I have the mask selected, those are the 4 corners of the mask. It's a green mask and it shows me the green selections because you can do more than one mask. So what I wanna do is I wanna go ahead, I have this locked in this frame's placement here. I wanna move to the point right before my eyes start moving and I'm gonna open them, okay? So basically, now I want the mask, I'm gonna turn up the softness a little bit, the feather, so that it has a little bit, actually I'll turn it down so you can see and then I'll do it. So now if I click on, make sure to click on just mask 1, don't click on mask, don't click on eyelid, click on mask 1, and I move it, it's just moving that actual mask. Okay, so it's not moving the eyeball, it's just literally moving what you can see. Only the things, yes, this is just a picture of a yellow dot. So if I select just this layer, okay, you can see this little circle here shows me just the layer I'm working on. So if I go back to this spot, you can see this mask will actually just open and it's just covering and uncovering that layer below it, okay? So if I go back off of this, that looks like the eye is opening, okay? So if I take this, now I'm gonna go to the very first spot of this mask effect, and I'm gonna click on that, and I click on Command C, and then I click on this one, and I hit Command V. I've now added that same effect to the other eye, okay? So that mask is in the wrong spot, right? Because it's now in the wrong, it's on the wrong eye. So I wanna move it over to the right eye so that its starting place is on the correct eye because it knows where it is. It doesn't do it in relation to the piece. It does it where in relation is the mask is. Then when I go over here, I just wanna make sure that I bring that same mask, because right now, watch what happens, right? Because it's moving over to the other side. If I go over to here, and then I click off of this and I click just the mask, I can move that over here. And now it's on the same level and the same movement. So now we have eyes open. Kind of weird with the music. So now what about the mouth? So maybe let's go down here and we're gonna look at, I'm gonna close this layer and close this layer so I don't have to deal with them. I'm close the pupils, I'm happy with that right now. Then we can go into the smile and I'm gonna add another mask. So this time I'm gonna click, I'm gonna go into this tool and I'm gonna pick the ellipse tool and then make sure I have the smile selected. And the mouth opens from the bottom, right? Give me a sec. I got to think of how this works on a person. So basically, I'm going to want to be like that. Now I can come in here, and if I hit V to get my selection tool, I'll hit Shift to undo all my points. I can then just click on just that one point of the mask, and I can move that, right? And it's got this other position. So this is its other, right? So if I want to make this here, maybe, so let's see. The eyeballs, let's have it open with the eyeball. So I'm actually going to open this one, and then I'm going to close masks so I can just see a little bit of this dot, and those dots are informative of what's happening, but it's not all the detail. But I can see, I can line them up a little bit better. When I move this, I can actually get down to that precision. Okay, so here, let's have the mouse start moving. So I'm going to click the mask, I'm going to click the mask path, and then I'm going to come over to the frame where it's, notice that little green bar going across the top. Every time I change something, it's adding its understanding, and the green is what's loaded so that it can actually work. Okay, so here, I'm going to click the mask path, and instead of moving the whole mask path, I'm just going to click this point. I'm going to hold Shift and click this point, hold Shift and click this point, hold Shift and click this point. So now I'm only moving the bottom one. So now it opens all the way to the piece that's as wide as it is, right? So now we're good. So that's the mouth opening. So this is creepy. It might seem crazy. Now, maybe the eyelids don't look as realistic as you think they should. So maybe what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to, not audio, effects. I'm going to do a drop shadow. I can add drop shadows on here. I try to keep drop shadows on the other software because then it renders the actual thing, and then it's not looking at specifics. It's not having to do the math of doing a drop shadow. It just uses that image. In this case, it's going to do math. But now look, I have a little bit of a drop shadow under the eye. So I'm going to just click on effects. I'm going to click on that drop shadow. I like that. I'm going to put it on the other eyelid. And now, oh, that looks terrible on the outside. So maybe I have to change that on the outside, or I have to add a frame so it masks it only to, and it doesn't allow that drop shadow to go outside the eyeball. So maybe I'm going to get rid of that drop shadow. I don't need that for now. And I can look at possibly change, oops, I just deleted the whole layer. Delete the drop shadow, so I'm okay there. Let's see this one. Let's go ahead and delete the drop shadow. Let's see, what else? Okay, so if you want it just to move in general, so what I can do now is if I want to manipulate this head, but I don't want everything to change. I don't want to have to do, if I want the head to turn side to side, maybe with the music, what I want to do is I want to make sure that it functions as its own piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of these layers and I'm going to put them into a pre-comp. Okay, so I'm grabbing everything and then I'm going to pre-compose this. And this is going to be Smiley Face. And so now everything is in a pre-composed layer. There's no background because there's no background to this right now. This is just its own thing, and it's created its own composition. If I close the effect controls, you can see, where's my new composition? Smiley face, smiley singing. So this is just the face. This is the composition that we were working in, okay? So if I go back to the smiley singing, the head is the same, but now the smiley face is its own layer. So if I come over here to effects, I can do what's called a wiggle, which is a fun, you can either do gelatin, which messes with all the points on it, this position, which does its actual movement. You can do rotation, which will actually turn it. You can do scale, which makes it bigger or smaller. You can do a combination of each. Each of the wiggles do a different thing. So let's see what Wiggle Rama does. Actually, no, let's do simple. Let's just do position. So this is going to wiggle. So I'm going to add this. Now I could do it here, but if it's not the very top layer, it may put it on the wrong layer. So I want to make sure I'm adding it to this composition, to smiley face. Okay. So now if I look, I don't have any internal stuff, right? I don't have any keyframes or anything. They're inside the other composition. So now if I need to edit where the eyes are going, I need to go into the other composition and edit the eyes by double clicking it or just opening it up here, right? If I double click it, it'll just take me over there. So get your eyes and your face doing everything you want and then work bigger. So now the head, this is how like Bob's Burgers and things like that work. They do the eyes and they match up the mouth to the animation, and then they take the whole head and they put it onto the body, and the body has just the arms that are moving or whatever. So for this wiggle, if I click play, it's going to just do a little wiggle. Okay. Now I can take that, the wiggle speed, I can make it higher. So let's go 6, and the wiggle amount is 50. So maybe I'll make it 70 or 80 or 90 or whatever. So here. Okay, so that's a lot. So maybe what we'll do is we'll come down here and I'll actually do a time thing, right? So maybe I like this wiggle speed and amount. Maybe we'll make this like 50 so it's not insane. And we'll make this like 4 so it's not insane. And then what I can do is I click those things and I can change it. So now I can have it fade into that, right? So that effect, which if I go up here and look at effects, you can see how I'm getting editable things in here. Now I can make this, let's make it 1. So this, or let's make it 0.5. I can make it really anything. And then I'm going to make the amount like 20. Okay. So what's going to happen is all the way over here, it'll still do a slow, simple wiggle as it does its other movements that are predetermined already, but then it starts moving real fast. So again, as it gets into that full speed wiggle, and you play with where that goes and it gets to like here. And so let's just actually see it. Let me close transform so I can actually see it. So when we get to here, it'll do some weird stuff as it transitions from one to the next. So that will be useful. And then we'll come over here and we'll make this, yeah, and we do this. Okay, so then we're here. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. If I don't want it to do that weird wiggle, I can just come in and have it do, I can put it right next to it. And the closer I get, the less of that middle wiggle I'll get. It might seem crazy what I'm... Cool. If I do wiggle rotation, I add that to it. Let's amp it up. Ready? Here we go. So that's its natural wiggle. Maybe right, it's like I'm here. Now we want to start doing the head wiggle as we get to this. So maybe this goes all the way down, and now we're going to do my head wiggle rotation is, so right now it'll be 0. And that 30 is fine. And then the next one, oh, wait, sorry, I got to hit the button. So I do that. And then the next one, I'll make it like 2. So now it'll go. And it's just futzing. It's playing with it until you get it to be exactly what you want. It might seem crazy what I'm about to... Let me see if I can get that a little cleaner. If you go closer to it, if you just go 1 frame away, it'll just go to that as opposed to having to work its way there. When it works its way there, it gets weird. So it might seem crazy. Cool. So there's ways to affect that and play with it and to get different things to do different things. You can even just come in and actually just have this at whatever wiggle you want. And then you can come in with the composing options and have the effect either at 100 or 0. So basically here you have it at 0. It might seem crazy what I'm about to now it's doing the full wiggle. Cool.